But in this book, when I was reading it, sometimes I would read it when there were other people around me and I had to skip several pages, like really quickly on my Kindle, so no one would look over my shoulder and see what I was reading. Hey everyone, my name's Mia and welcome to my channel. Today I am going to be talking about the books that I read in April, and unfortunately I didn't read as much as I wanted to. I only ended up reading 6, which is a little disappointing, but I guess it means that I can talk more about each book in detail in this monthly wrap-up video. So let's get started. Okay, so the first book that I read was Heartstopper Volume 2, and I've already mentioned this book and this whole series multiple times, but basically this is the second volume in a whole series of volumes of these graphic novels by Alice Oseman, and it basically just follows the love story between these two characters. So it's got a pretty simple plot, and I gave this graphic novel 3 stars. So yeah, the inside just looks like this, and I really love the art style. I think it's very simple, but it still gets the story across. I just really like it. But I only gave this graphic novel 3 stars because honestly, at the end of reading this and when I finished this, I was like, that's it? Because I feel like not very much happened in this graphic novel, and honestly, I feel like all of these graphic novels are quite short and not much happens in them, but it still felt like a lot more happened in the first volume compared to this one. So yeah, it's like a perfectly fine story. It's just my only complaint was how short it was and how it felt like not much really happened. Even though a lot did happen, it didn't really feel like it. So yeah, it just didn't make me feel as happy as the first volume did, because the first volume was very cute, but this one, I guess, is a little bit more sadder and darker and more complicated. I mean, not overly, but it's just not as positive as the first one, which is totally fine, but I just personally didn't enjoy it as much. So the next book that I read is called If I Never Met You. So I believe the author's name is Vari McFarlane. Yeah, I believe that's how you pronounce her name. But basically this book I gave 3 stars, but I did actually really enjoy it. So let's talk about it. So this book follows this woman called Laurie who is in her 30s. She's a lawyer and she's been in a long-term relationship with this guy called... Honestly, who cares about the guy? Basically, the thing is, she's been in a relationship with this guy for, I believe it's like 17 years. They've been each other's only proper relationship, but then he ends up breaking up with her, and then she's like totally distraught. But she ends up doing this fake dating scheme with this other guy in the law firm, because that other guy has a bad reputation of not having relationships and kind of just sleeping around, and he wants to pretend he has a serious girlfriend so he can be promoted to a partner in the law firm. And so yeah, it's like one of those classic fake dating plots, which honestly, I mean, they're fun to read, but they're not really my favorite. But that being said, I really did enjoy this book. I did like how the characters in this book were a little bit older, because recently I've been reading like a lot of novels throughout this year about younger people, and I think this book just was a lot more mature because it really did focus on Laurie's personal development, how she has to like learn to be herself again and kind of learn what it's like to not be in a long-term relationship anymore. And yeah, she does get into another relationship, obviously, with the whole fake dating thing, but I think that her own personal development was really well done, and I think that she does transform a lot, which was really satisfying to read. But I didn't really like the romance as much. I think that Jamie, who's the dude that Laurie's fake dating with, I think that, I mean, he's interesting, but I think he could have been more developed because I didn't feel like he was strong enough, and I also felt like the whole relationship was kind of rushed in my opinion. But other than that, it was a really fun book to read, and I mean, I enjoyed it, but I only gave it 3 stars because, I mean, maybe I was a bit harsh because I have fond memories of reading that book. So the next book I read is an audiobook called Daughter of the Pirate King by Trisha Levenseller. It was an okay experience. I gave it 2 stars. The thing is, this book is not a very serious book. It's kind of just a fun book to read, kind of more for entertainment rather than you having any emotional investment in it. So basically it's about this girl called Alosa who is the daughter of the Pirate King, and she's had this mission to pretend to be captured by this pirate ship, this other pirate ship, because she wants to be captured so she can go onto the pirate ship and search for a special map. And it's, okay, this book is kind of ridiculous. Like, it's really just like a fun, lighthearted book, even though there are more darker elements in it. I mean, for a young adult book, so not really. I mean, it does like feature a lot of violence, there's a lot of killing, that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's kind of weird to have like a really lighthearted and humorous book in my opinion, feature a lot of gruesome stuff and killing, but yeah, this book doesn't really have that much of a plot. I think it's just more focused on the characters. So another main aspect of this book is the romance between Alosa and the first mate of the ship she has been captured on, called Raiden. And I mean, both characters are really great. I think they're both like, you know, just lighthearted, funny characters. They have like a lot of banter and that kind of thing. The author did a good job writing it, but I just don't think that I cared too much for it. Maybe it's because, I don't know, halfway through this book I was kind of getting sick of listening to the audiobook and I kind of just wanted it to finish. So this book does have a sequel, however I am not going to read that sequel. Okay, so after that average audiobook experience, I finally got The Hand on the Wall by Maureen Johnson on my library audiobook app. And if you didn't know, The Hand on the Wall is the third book and the final book in the Truly Devious trilogy. And I've been listening to this series throughout this year and I've been really enjoying it. And I just got really invested in this series, so I was so excited to, you know, find out the ending and conclude this series. And yeah, I was just really excited to read this book. This is probably the book that I cared most for in this whole month. So I gave it 4 stars and I've been giving the whole series 4 stars, and this book was enjoyable. So The Hand on the Wall is the third book in the Truly Devious series, and the Truly Devious series follows a couple of mysteries. It's basically about this school called Ellingham Academy where talented children can go if they have like a special interest. Hey, it's Mia, and it's another low quality webcam video, but I lost some footage about me talking about the rest of The Hand on the Wall and another book that I read this month, so I'm just gonna quickly go over them now. So following on with the plot of The Hand of the Wall, so the plot revolves around these mysteries regarding a kidnapping that occurred when the founder of Ellingham Academy was alive, and the kidnapping of his wife and child, and it also revolves around some weird occurrences that are happening currently at the school in present day. So the thing is, I really enjoyed listening to The Hand on the Wall, and honestly, when I listen to audiobooks, I usually only listen to them when I'm doing something else, but I was so enraptured by this book, like so entertained by it, because a lot happened and there was just so much tension and I just wanted to solve the mysteries and like find out the solutions. So I sat there and just listened to this book for hours upon hours. So I finished this book really quickly. And so yeah, I did think that it was a very enjoyable reading experience. However, I must say that I think the ending was a bit rushed, and I do think that the answer to the mystery was kind of disappointing and unsatisfying, and I can't really explain why without spoiling the book, but I do think that this is just a case of where the mystery is more interesting than the actual answer itself. And when you hear the answer, well, when I heard the answer, I was just a bit like, I mean, I guess. But I still think that Maureen Johnson did a really good job with this book series, and yeah, I'm kind of sad that it's over. Okay, so the next book that I read this month was an audiobook called The Secret by Rhonda Byrne. The Secret is a very popular self-help book, and honestly, when I was listening to it, I was a bit like, because the way that it's narrated is just very, very motivational, I guess, like the way words are spoken, and there's a lot of like spiritual sounding music, but yeah, it was an interesting experience. The Secret is about the law of attraction, which if you didn't know is basically this idea that you can manifest things into your life by believing in it and saying, oh, I want this to occur to me, I'm going to believe in it, it's going to come, that kind of thing. So this book just kind of follows what the law of attraction is, how you can use it in lots of different situations. And while it was interesting, and while I do believe in the law of attraction to an extent, I did disagree with some of the things that were said in this book, particularly about how people can manifest like really terrible things into their lives. Like I'm talking about like natural disasters and war. Honestly, it's like nice to believe that you have a lot of power over your life. So that's like one good aspect of the law of attraction. I just disagreed with the idea that victims of terrible circumstances somehow brought them upon themselves. Yeah, it was an interesting experience. I just gave it 3 stars. So the next book that I read, and the final book of the month that I read, was called The Mistake by Elle Kennedy, and this is the second book in the Off-Campus series. Now, I went into this book knowing that it was probably going to be light, but a little bit trashy, and I wanted that because I just wanted something to cheer me up and just something that I could read really quickly. But this book actually ended up taking me a very long time. So the thing about this book was that it was a lot more raunchier than I was expecting it to be. Like, I don't remember what the first book in this series was like, but in this book, when I was reading it, sometimes I would read it when there were other people around me and I had to skip several pages, like really quickly on my Kindle, so no one would look over my shoulder and see what I was reading. Other than that, this book was, I mean, it was alright, but it wasn't particularly special. So yeah, I gave this book 3 stars. I mean, I think the characters are pretty good and the plot is alright. I mean, this book is just really, really similar to The Deal, which is the first one in this off-campus series, and they're both really formulaic. So I feel like even the main characters are really similar. So this book is about this freshman in college called Grace. She hasn't really put herself out there, but then she ends up running into this hockey player called John Logan. Basically what happens is that he accidentally knocks on her door, and it's so dumb. Like, because he's trying to find someone else, and then she's like, oh, hello, and then he's like, oh, sorry, I think I got the wrong door. And then he looks into her dorm room and she's watching a movie, and it's Die Hard, I believe, and he's like, oh my god, I love that movie. And she's like, oh my god, so do I. And so they end up watching the movie together, and from there there's like a lot of drama where they're together and then they're not, and then he's like trying to chase her and she's like, I don't trust you anymore, and it's just that kind of stuff. And then there's also like the tougher issues in the book. Like, each of these books in the off-campus series, I believe, deals with some sort of more tougher family issue, something that's like a little bit dark to balance out the lightness. And I mean, that was alright, but I didn't particularly care too much, which makes me sound cold-hearted. So yeah, by the end, I just wanted to finish this book already. So those are all the books that I read in April, and I mean, honestly, it wasn't the best reading month, which is really disappointing because I always want to read a heap of great books, but at the same time, that's kind of my fault because I didn't read as much as I wanted to. I could have read more, but I did have a bit of a reading slump towards the tail end of this month, which is annoying, but I'm gonna try and get out of that in May. Anyway, thank you so much for watching this video, and if you want to see more videos from me about reading, writing, books, anything like that, then consider subscribing. That's it for this video. Bye!